My name is Ann Galloway. I'm the founder of VT Digger, and we're here in the CCTV Channel 3 studios for the first 2018 gubernatorial primary debate for the Republican Party. And on my far right, we have Governor Phil Scott, and in the center, we have Keith Stern from Springfield. We're going to take a number of questions from the audience, and we're going to get started with Governor Phil Scott. We're going to start with a minute and a half introduction from each candidate, and then I'll be asking questions. Governor?
Well, thank you very much, Ann, and thank you very much for everyone coming in tonight and listening and watching on TV here on Channel 17. 20 years ago, I didn't have a political bone in my body. I was just a frustrated business owner who was complaining a lot about what they, them were doing to me in Montpelier, much like many of you probably watching tonight are as well. But I finally decided, instead of complaining so much, I looked myself in the mirror and thought, maybe I should be part of the solution instead of complaining. So I stepped up, ran for the Senate, then ran for lieutenant governor, served in the minority ever since, and then decided to run for governor because I saw a lack of emphasis and focus on the economy. So after the election as governor, I did indeed follow through with that. We proposed a budget that didn't raise any taxes or fees. We were successful in our first year. In the second year, we thought it was such a good idea, we proposed it again because I believe that Vermonters deserve a government that runs efficiently, that lives within its means without raising taxes and fees. And we continue to grow the economy, make Vermont more affordable, and protect the most vulnerable. And it's something that government should do, something that I've been doing as governor, and will continue to do in the future if I'm elected to do so again.
Thank you, Governor. Keith, could you give us an opening statement?
Sure. My name is Keith Stern. I'm from North Springfield. I have a small business in White River Junction, Stern's Quality Produce. And I looked to see what was happening, and I'm not a politician whatsoever, but I said, this can't continue. When they came up with a budget that didn't raise taxes and celebrated, I said, this is the final straw. We got such high taxes in this state, unaffordable for so many, and to just say, we're going to just not raise taxes, that's the solution, we're fine. That's not a solution at all. I hear almost every day from somebody saying, we're moving out, we just can't afford to stay here any longer. I was walking around door knocking on Monday, walked up to a door and handed a card to somebody. She said, you might as well keep it. 3 weeks from now, we're in Florida. I mean, it can't continue. We're too high on property taxes, income tax, sales tax. We can do much better just by reducing the waste in government.
Thank you very much. So the first question is, what are your priorities for the next biennium? Keith, would you like to start?
Sure. It's definitely focusing on cutting the waste in government. I had a retired state employee come up to me and said, there's agencies and departments where there's more management than actual workers. He said, you walk in the office, the phone's ringing, nobody there to answer the phone, but there's managers sitting there. 66 more state employees in Vermont than New Hampshire that make over $90,000 a year, even though we have about half the population. How is that justified? I went to the state auction, equipment auction. They were auctioning off pallets of tires, like brand new. They might have had maybe 5,000 miles on them. They were going for pennies on the dollar. Trucks, they're getting rid of, they should be run for at least another 5-6 years. They're being sold, people were buying them, they're gonna run them. Why aren't we running them? They have low mileage. These trucks had just over 100,000. They're built for 500 to 1 million miles. Why aren't we taking care of that? There's plenty of issues just like that.
Thank you. Governor, what do you say? What are your priorities for the next biennium?
Well, I'm going to continue to govern by doing what's right rather than what's easy or politically popular. I'm going to work within our 3 strategic principles, growing the economy, making Vermont more affordable, protecting the most vulnerable. And when I established the budget, clear a line in the sand. They said we weren't going to raise taxes and fees. I believe that that's what Vermonters want and deserve. The Democrats tested me on a number of occasions, led me to veto the budget 3 times over the last 2 sessions. But even with all the drama, we were able to accomplish a lot in these 2 years. We created a housing bond, a $35 million housing bond that will leverage $65 million worth of private assets for the largest investment in housing Vermont has ever seen. We created more TIF districts throughout Vermont, which is going to be incredibly important to reestablishing our downtowns like Springfield. I was just there the other day, and they're taking advantage of that. As well, we've added 4,400 workers to the workforce over the last 6 months, which is important because right now there are fewer people working today in our workforce than there were in 2009. And that's part of our problem, the demographics that we're facing. We have to do whatever we can to bring more people into the state, more workers to fill those jobs that are out there. And we have to make it more affordable and for them to stay here as well.
Thank you very much. Governor, is keeping taxes level enough, tax rates level? That's what you said you were going to do, but is that enough?
Well, it's certainly a start. Is it enough? No. I mean, we should be doing as much as we can. But when you have a supermajority or a majority in the House and the Senate at this point in time, we had a supermajority for 6 years. And the natural reaction for some is every problem that came forward was a natural reaction to just raise taxes and fees in order to satisfy that. When we passed those budgets with no taxes and fees, particularly the first year, and that included property tax rates as well for residential and non-residential, we weren't as successful in the second half of the biennium. We weren't able to accomplish that with non-residential, but we did with residential property tax rates that were level. First time that's been done since I've been in politics. So that was an incredible accomplishment. It starts bending the curve. We can do better. We proved that by not raising taxes and fees, we still grew the economy, grew the revenues organically, which is so important to our state. But we have to do it by economic growth, and that's the way we fight our way out of this.
Thank you. Keith?
Oh, taxes have to be cut. And some of the things he was talking about just doesn't make any sense. I live in Springfield. I know investing in downtown is really useless because there's no parking. So what are you going to get downtown when nobody has a place to park? The bond, $35 million. How many times do you see the government doing a bond for a Walmart or a car dealership or anything like that? They don't have to because they can make a profit. If we change the laws so investors in housing could make a profit, they would do it on their own. But we're impeding them by the property tax, by the regulations they have to go through to get permitting, and by not giving landlords any protection at all. I know people in Springfield, they sold off all their properties. They said, it's just not worth it anymore. So who buys it? Slumlord type people.
So here's the other side of the coin. If we cut taxes or even keep them level, how do we make investments in the state's future? Governor?
Well, again, we proved we could do it. We did it last year. Even with not raising taxes and fees in that first year that I was in office, the organic revenue growth was about $82 million. So we were spending, even though we weren't proposing raising any taxes and fees, we were spending $82 million more with organic growth in revenues. So it proved that if you invest more in the economy, you focus more on the economy, you focus on demographics, you try and bring more people in, keep more people here, that you can actually survive and prosper, because what's happened to us as a society is we keep raising taxes and fees, or that's what's been done over the last decade or two. It makes it so unaffordable for so many. So it's no wonder people don't want to stay, can't afford to stay, or can't develop a business here. So from my standpoint, trying to grow the economy, make Vermont more affordable, protect the most vulnerable is key to our future and what we need to do. Demographics is the problem with Vermont.
But Governor, can you take credit for that 82 million when we're at the end of, we're coming out of a recession and we've got tax breaks from the federal government?
Well, that was in the first year. That wasn't in the second year. The tax cut from the government came in the second year. So the $82 million, I'm not taking credit for it. It's just a reality. $82 million worth of increased revenue, even without raising taxes and fees. That's simple math. That's what happened. I'm not taking credit for it, but it's the economy's heating up and we're taking advantage of it. Why should we? It was counterintuitive in the last year to raise taxes in a year when we had a surplus. This past year, we had $44 million drop from the sky in April. No one saw that one coming. $44 million came then, April and May. We had another 11 million, June, another 11 million. $65 million, and if you count the corrections we took before, about $100 million more came in this past year than we accounted for. So I would say that if you invest correctly, if you focus in the right areas, that you can grow our way out of this. There's a third way. It isn't all about raising taxes and fees.
Keith, you've talked a lot about cutting taxes. How would you suggest that the state invest in the future if...
Oh, that would be investing in the future. Absolutely. If you can make it affordable for people to stay, for businesses to survive, it's going to grow. We have money to pave roads. Some of these roads are a disaster, and we're wasting money that could be going to that. $200,000 they're using to replace people's wood stoves. How many miles of roads would that pave? Just things like that. Putting in charging stations for EVs for out-of-state people. Is that the taxpayer's responsibility to do things like that? Not in my estimation.
Okay, thank you.
Can I counter any of that? Or how do you want to do this?
Well, you could do it in 30 seconds.
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll take up the EVs. I mean, I think creating charging stations, getting prepared for the future, when we have so much tourism that we count on here, that's an industry. That's one of our largest industries in Vermont. And when we have a mandate from in Canada, where the Quebec is looking to establish a program where they're growing their EVs by 100,000, a lot of those cars we're seeing coming across the border, taking advantage of buying our products here in Vermont and staying in our inns and restaurants. Those are from Canada. And so what we need to do is make sure that we're prepared for that and cater to that. It's part of our industry to do so. And we did it with Volkswagen money, not taxpayer money.
Thank you.
That money would have been used where? It could have been used in a lot of places to help a lot of people.
They're very particular about where you can use that money as part of the settlement.
Agreement, right.
Right.
Keith, this election cycle, it's anticipated that more Democrats are going to win seats in the House, which could change the dynamic in the House of Representatives. And as governor, I wonder how you would plan to achieve your goals with a legislature that's largely Democratic.
Well, the first thing I will say during my inauguration is people have given a mandate. If you elect a conservative Republican to be governor, that's a mandate from the people. They want change, and they're not going to accept anything less than change. I say, we're going to work together, or I'll just take it to the people and say, you know, we could get these things accomplished, but you got to give me the right people next time, because they just don't want to work on getting things affordable, creating a positive business environment, things such as that.
So you're essentially saying nothing would be accomplished?
No, I'm not saying that. I can work across party lines when people are willing to be reasonable. You never know until we start doing things. Some of these things I can do on my own as governor in my own administration, making cuts, having money to pave roads.
Great, thank you, Governor.
Well, actually, you can't, Keith, because they appropriate money. That's a separate form of government. The legislature has the authority to appropriate money. As I found out, you don't have any say in terms of spending money without the legislature's approval. So you're going to have to work within the system. It's
Right.
three separate, legs of government. You have the executive branch, you have the legislative branch, and the judicial branch.
Oh, I understand that. I
So-
don't need
so
to
yeah.
lessen. I'm just saying, if I say, here, I've cut $2 million, can we use it for paving roads? Are they going to say, no, we're not going to pave roads?
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they say that all the time, actually.
Well,
So, Governor, could you talk a bit about what will happen to your agenda should we have more Democrats in the House who would be possibly even able to override your veto?
Yeah, I mean,
how would you pursue your agenda in that scenario?
admittedly, it'd be much more difficult. I owe a lot to the Republicans and independents in the House that were able to sustain some of those vetoes. I vetoed about 11 bills over the last couple of
Yeah,
years.
you hold the record now.
Well, no, I think I'm tied for the record, but and without their support, without having those numbers, we wouldn't be able to do that. So it admittedly be more difficult to do. But again, I came into the Senate, served 5 terms there, reached across the aisle a lot during that time, as well as when I was lieutenant governor, worked across the aisle, always serving in the minority. I would have to take a different approach, obviously, and we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But at this point in time, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to continue to have that advantage in the House. But there are some, there's some fiscally conservative Democrats out there too. So we just have to convince them that, again, Vermont needs to be more affordable if we're going to keep more people here.
Your critics have said that you haven't reached across the aisle.
Well,
What do you say to them?
Well, again, it's a different dynamic when you're governor than when you're serving with them. And there's always been tension between the administration, the executive branch, and the legislature. I saw it with, I remember Howard Dean, my first year or two there. I was in the Senate, and I remember Howard Dean walking into, they would talk about a lot about the drama that happened this year, but I always treated everyone with respect and civility. But I remember Howard Dean walking into the Senate chamber and wagging his finger at Bill Doyle for something that he did. And did it right in front of the cameras and everything else, not behind closed doors. So there was some drama then, and I would say that there was drama in the Shumlin administration too, even though they had a supermajority. They just did it behind closed doors. There's always tension.
It's hard to imagine drama in the legislature.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just
I
so
know.
surprised. So, Governor, could you talk about your stance on taxation and regulation of marijuana?
Yeah, as you know, I vetoed the pot bill last year. I had concerns about what certain aspects of the bill was more of a libertarian approach, and but then they made the changes, and I signed it, and it's still, from my standpoint, a libertarian approach where what you do in your own home is your own business, as long as you're not adversely affecting someone else. I think that's appropriate. But we're not ready, I don't believe, for a tax and regulate system at this point in time. I believe we need to do more work in terms of addressing impairment on our highways, and not just from pot, but from all different types of substances, whether it's alcohol or prescription drugs or pot or a combination of the three. We also need more education. We need to prepare ourselves and educate our youth about the adverse effects of too much of any substance. So we're not there yet. Maybe we will at some point, but certainly not now.
So when will we be ready?
As soon as we put those other issues to the forefront, as soon as we address more education, as soon as we address some of our mental health issues, as soon as we address impairment on our highways, and then we can talk then about a tax and regulate system.
So is that after you leave office?
It could be. maybe.
Would
We
you
don't know.
veto a bill if it came to your desk?
If it came to, without addressing all those other issues, I would.
Okay, good, thank you. Keith, what's your stance on taxation and regulation of marijuana?
Well, I opposed the bill that was passed because it didn't cover that as one part. It didn't cover what to do in part of, in the case of impaired driving. It didn't look at all the factors. For me, I would have to look at the complete picture, make sure there's absolutely no negative consequences by passing it. From what I'm hearing in Colorado, it's not good. The governor there has even said that they might have to reconsider having it legal. So there's a lot to consider. But anything bill about legalizing marijuana to tax and regulate would have to include a bill cracking down on opioid use. Get serious about the dealers.
Okay. Is there any gun restriction you would agree with, Keith?
That's a good question. I would consult the experts on it, the gun owners groups, because they're a lot more informed than I am on it. If it doesn't violate the Constitution, that's one thing. We got two constitutions that are in effect that have to be considered. You can't pass anything that violates those constitutions, no matter how much somebody wants to do it. It's absolutely off the table, violating the constitutions.
Okay. Governor, I'm going to ask you a slightly different version of this question since you signed a bill that included some gun restrictions this year. There was a poll that came out this morning from Morning Consult that you may have seen, and it shows that you had a precipitous drop in popularity. As a result, it would seem, of your stance on guns. You had the 4th highest approval rating of any governor in the country, and now you're the 13th. I guess you have a negative rating now, sorry to say. So 13th negative on this issue. So could you tell us whether you regret signing the bill? I mean, was this something that, did you anticipate this drop in popularity, especially among Republicans and people who believed that you would stand by your original stance on gun control?
Well, again, leadership and being governor isn't about watching the polls and taking action based on what the polls would be or what the political ramifications would be. I went into that with my eyes wide open, as you know. That was about the time of Parkland, the shooting in Parkland, where there was 17 individuals that lost their life as a result. And we had an eerily similar situation here in Fairhaven. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of which day it was going to happen. If it wasn't for one individual, one young woman who came forward with a text message, I believe we would have gone from one of the safest states in the nation to probably one of the unsafest states in the nation. His goal was to have more kills than Virginia Tech, which was 32, as you remember. And so I chose action over inaction. I know that I disappointed a lot of people. I regret disappointing people, but at the same time, I had to look myself in the mirror and know that watching what the governor of Florida was going through, going to 17 funerals, looking into the eyes of parents and friends, and if that ever happened in Vermont, I'm not sure at that point in time I could say that we'd done all we could. And so I decided to take action.
Was the magazine ban necessary?
That would have been one area that I don't think was necessary. It wasn't my idea, but it was something that the majority in the legislature decided to do. I think what they wanted was an assault weapons ban, and then they chose the magazines instead. But I think we could have. There were other good aspects within the bills that were passed. I don't believe we would have needed the magazine portion of that.
But you
it
signed the
wasn't
bill
enough.
anyway.
It wasn't enough for me to veto the budget.
Okay. Keith, you were going to ask a question.
Well, I was just
Or
going to say,
something.
Parkland and the kid in Fairhaven, it wasn't a gun issue, it was mental health issue. That hasn't been addressed, and that should be addressed. Why are we not addressing that problem? I mean, if you really want to take care of the gun violence, go where the problem is. Don't go looking for a solution to a non-problem. I mean, the schools haven't been secured yet. They're starting, from what I hear now. That should have been done immediately if that was the issue. Taking away gun rights from legal gun owners, law-abiding citizens, is not a solution to anything.
Thank you, Governor. Did you want to respond?
Yeah, first of all, we didn't take any gun rights away from any individuals with the legislation that we put forward. These gun safety measures were something that lived within the Constitution, don't violate the Second Amendment. I'm a believer in the Second Amendment. I have a gun safe full of guns. I've been hunting since I was 11 years old, took my NRA course at 12. So I believe in that as well. Some of the provisions that took place were I believe, were respectful of what was happening in our society, what's happening right now. Mental health is a good issue. I agree with you on that, but we are taking action on that. We've done a lot with mental health. We have a long ways to go with that as well. Immediately, at the same time that I talked about being open-minded to gun safety measures, we put into place a call for action, $5 million worth of for spending in our schools. We're issuing those resources as we speak. So to say we haven't taken any action, I don't think is accurate.
No, I didn't say hadn't taken any. Didn't take it immediately.
Well,
and there's one, can I just make one more thing?
Sure.
Okay. California Supreme Court just ruled that magazine size restrictions is unconstitutional, and Ohio just ruled that bump stock ban is unconstitutional. So they do have precedent there that it's violation of Constitution.
well, we'll find out.
Yeah, we will.
So we'll live with that.
Unfortunately,
I mean, again,
it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money. It's going to cost the gun owners a lot of money fighting this, which is a shame because the money could be better spent on education, on handling guns safely, and doing so much with that money for the state.
yeah, we need to do both.
Well, thank you. Let's move on to
Yes.
another topic. What do you say, Governor, to Vermonters who are scared about the impact Donald Trump will have on the state?
Well, we, you know, the states were formed, or the federal government was formed by the states. So I believe that we protect ourselves. We continue to be individual. We're independent in some respects. And we'll work our way through this and stand up for what we believe in. And when the president does something good, we applaud it. When the president doesn't do something that's conducive to Vermont's values, then we oppose it. So I believe that we'll get through this one way or another, and we'll have a better Vermont as a result.
We hope.
Keith, what is your response to this question?
Well, the governor talked about the increase in revenue. A lot of it was from the federal tax cuts. So, I mean, there is some good things coming out. There's some not so good. I mean, that's what happens with any president. I mean, we have to live with the results of the election. Just like Barack Obama said, elections have consequences.
What about the issue of immigration? How should the state move forward to react to what the federal government is doing with immigration policy in the state? Keith, do you want to start?
Okay. We have laws in this country. Immigration laws are one of them. And he's just following the immigration laws that are written. He's not violating anything as far as cracking down on illegals, and we should be supporting that. We have a process for getting to this country legally, and that's the way we should be approached. We're bringing in people that don't know the language. We're having to get interpreters for education, for government, for businesses. It's just costing us all money we don't have. In the meantime, we have homeless people that aren't being taken care of because there's no money for them. Quick story, this one woman contacted me. A friend of hers, the house was leaking and couldn't get any help anywhere. Could I do anything? So I put it on Facebook. Contractor said, I'll go look at it. And he went and looked. He said, yeah, there's a hole in the wall. Brought it out. So I said, go ahead and fix it. I'll take care of it. It's $200. So she contacts me. She says, thank you. She says, you know, I tried everywhere to get help. I called the governor's office, and they wouldn't do anything for me. She said, I bet if I was a foreigner, an immigrant, I could get it taken care of. They said, oh yeah, then we could help you. Is that what we've come to?
Governor, where do you stand on
Well,
immigration
we're
issues?
a country of immigrants. I don't think we have to look back too far. I think each and every one of us, my great-grandfather, he immigrated from Scotland, and I grew up in Barrie, you know, rich ethnic history. All around the economy of the Scots, of the Swedes, of the Italians, of the French Canadian, all coming to Vermont because of the economy. We're the second oldest state in the country right now. We're going to be number one if we don't change our ways, and we need more legal immigration. We need more immigration as well. We need to do what's morally right. In terms of refugees, if we've reached out to the federal government and we've asked them to honor the agreements that were made before, if an area wants to seek refugees in their community, that we would like to accept them, because what we need is more workers in our workforce. We need more people in Vermont. Again, we had a slight population decline last year. And we can't continue down that path. The demographics are the challenge for us, and I think legal immigration is part of the solution.
Can I get one thing clarified? You said legal immigration, and then you said immigration is another.
Same thing. I mean, we need immigration. We need legal immigration.
Oh,
right.
okay. I didn't know if you were getting to illegal immigration. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted that clarified. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Governor, there was a letter that was issued recently by a number of Republican governors supporting the nomination of Judge Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, and I understand that you did not endorse that letter, and I wondered if you could explain why.
Well, I don't know Judge Kavanaugh yet, and I'm seeking out information. I look forward to the hearings. I believe that he should be allowed a full congressional hearing so that we can find out who he is, what he stands for, and answer some of those tough questions. But at this point, from my standpoint, just a rubber stamp, I don't think is appropriate. I believe that what we need to do is hear from him as a candidate, so to speak, and make sure that we know who he is.
Thank you. Keith, would you support Judge Kavanaugh if you were governor?
I don't know. As governor, I mean, that's federal. I might, if after hearing about him, and I don't know why they would need a governor to support him. I mean, that's the Senate's job. Mm-hmm. But I don't know anything about him. I've been so busy with the campaign. I'm not following that. Mm-hmm. All I know is we do need Supreme Court justices that follow the Constitution, not rule from the bench, not pass laws from the bench, I mean.
Thank you. Governor, what is the future of agriculture in Vermont?
Well, you know, we have a tradition as part of the backbone of Vermont. Rich history of agriculture is how In fact, the series is on the top of the State House, and that's indicative of who we are as a society. So we'll see some transformation, I believe, but we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to support ourselves. We have to feed ourselves. It's a basic human need, and we should be as self-sufficient as possible. So agriculture will continue to be a major, important part of our economy, as well as who we are as people. So it may, again, transform in some ways, but I don't see that we'll change that from that strong agricultural foundation that we have in Vermont.
Even though that sector of the economy has continued to decline over the years?
Well, again, I think there's been some good news in some respects in terms of agriculture. We're losing a lot of farms, and we may not be losing cows at this point, but we're losing farms, and they're becoming bigger and competing in different ways. And milk prices are certainly at rock bottom prices, and their farmers are struggling. Dairy farmers are struggling. But there's some good news in terms of looking for other approaches, different crops to forage, and so again, we'll continue to do what we can to take care of ourselves and make sure that the industry that made us who we are as part of our foundation continues.
Thank you, Keith. What's the future of agriculture in
Okay,
Vermont?
first thing I just want to say one thing. I misspoke when I said pass legislation. I meant legislate from the bench.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
Yeah, we have to protect the dairy industry. I mean, first of all, priority is cutting property taxes for them. But we have to find a fair way of setting a price for milk where they're at least, at the very least, have a bottom price that they can break even. At times when the price goes down. And we're not even doing that. That's a critical thing, because we can't let the price go below where they're losing money. It's nonsensical for any business. They can't survive if they're losing money. So that's critical. But we do have to work with the dairy industry. Make sure we don't lose any more dairy farms if that's absolutely possible.
Thank you. The increasing cost of health care is putting a lot of pressure on Vermonters. How would you contain costs, Governor?
Well,
How are you trying to do that at this point?
We've, I believe, prevention is part of the answer, that we need to do more to help ourselves to become healthier as a society. And part of what we're trying to do in a couple of different ways, like the all-payer model that we've experimented with. We have a pilot project that looks fairly successful. We want to grow that a bit, and it's looking at the patient holistically. What can we do to, instead of a fee for every service, that we look at the patient holistically, and what can we do to prevent some of the medical issues from happening in the first place. So that's been successful. We're working towards that. Again, we're trying to figure out what the federal government's going to do, but we need to keep the insurance market as open and as affordable as possible for many. And what we've done in the past, I think, as well with Medicaid, it's unfortunate a third of our population is somehow enrolled in some form of Medicaid disbursements. And we need to do whatever we can there to create the system that's more efficient, and we have. We've actually saved quite a bit of money over the last 2 years in terms of the Medicaid and what we do to help Vermonters.
Thank you. Keith?
Okay, first of all, the individual mandate bill that the governor told the legislators to put on his desk and then he signed was...
Well, I didn't really tell them to do
well,
that.
that's what it came out in the media.
Absolutely,
yeah. But that's a disaster for so many people. When people can't afford health insurance, they're going to get penalized for that. Absolutely insane idea. The idea is to make it more affordable to get health insurance. And one thing I'm looking at, I've contacted Solidarity Health Share Program, which the policies are very inexpensive. $200 for a single person, $400 for two, and I believe it's $700 for a family. It will save people a ton of money. They pay 100% coverage. What they do require is people take care of their health, which is a great thing. They're held responsible if they're not taking care of their health. But I'm going to look at using that for the state employees and educators, because it'll save the taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. And we could pay 100% for the state employees and educators while still saving a lot of money for our taxpayers.
Thank you. Could you talk about Lake Champlain cleanup, Governor, and what steps you're taking to make sure that pollutants are staying out of the lake?
Well, obviously, we're under mandate from the federal government to clean up Lake Champlain and our waterways. That's an issue that we need to fulfill our requirements. We're doing that over the last couple of years. We put tens of millions of dollars into place for capital improvements that we believe will help in the future. We received the Lake Champlain report a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the good news is if the lake's not getting any worse. The other part of that, of course, is it's not getting any better. So I'm committed to fulfilling our mandate in terms of cleaning up Lake Champlain and our waterways. And again, we've made significant strides in doing so, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a couple of decades anyhow to make any real difference. And again, I'm committed to doing so.
What do we do about these wastewater spills that seem to happen every other week? I mean, we just had one yesterday in Rutland that was more than 9 million gallons.
Yeah, that's very concerning.
How do we stop that?
Yeah.
And it just keeps happening.
Yeah, you know.
Shouldn't there be some action?
I believe there should be action, and it's interesting when we heard about some of these in Burlington, in particular. We had 3 spills, major spills, which is unacceptable. But some of that is in regards to some of the economic development with some of the new craft breweries that are coming into play, and it's just a different way of treating that they haven't got a handle on. But again, it's unacceptable. I believe that there's got to be a way for more storage. We're seeing with climate change, we're seeing more high-intensity storms, so that's part of the problem as well. So we need to store some of the storm water, some of the excess refuge that's going into our sewage treatment plants right now. So again, separating the storm water from the refuge is something that we're continuing to do. Has been happening. CSOs have been happening over the last 20 years or so. We have a ways to go in that regard too. But changes with the sewer systems themselves is going to be part of the answer.
Thank you. Keith, what do you think we should do about
first
the
of
sewage
all,
spills and Lake Champlain?
immediately they should ban any more construction. Put a freeze on what they're doing. If they're already at overcapacity, why increase the waste going into the plants that can't treat what they have? Freeze it. That'll bring action very quickly. Very quickly they'll jump on finding the funding to take care of the problem and start doing it. But that's what it's going to take apparently, because nothing else seems to be working in the short term.
Well, thank you. Could we have very quick closing statements, starting with you, Keith, and then the Governor? We only have a couple of minutes left, so 1 minute, please.
Okay. Well, I hope you heard the differences. There's a lot of overspending in the government, overtaxation. I'm opposed to having that. I want to make sure people like me that have been here all their lives can afford to stay here. It's not going to happen by holding the status quo. That's obvious. If we don't turn things around, the state is doomed to be just a tourist industry. People being here just to service the out-of-staters. And that's just not acceptable to me. We can make this state great again. Not to steal from Donald Trump, but
Thank you. Governor?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Vermont Digger, and thank you, Channel 17, for hosting this this event, this debate. And I'd like to, I've spent my entire life treating others the way I want to be treated, whether it's in politics or racing or business. And I believe that leadership is about doing just that, following through on the initiatives that you feel are better for Vermont. And I'm going to continue to do that, regardless of the political ramifications. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected again, I'll do things for the right reasons. And live with the consequences, but I'll do things that I independently that I think are right. I know we have a lot of challenges on the horizon. Demographics is a big issue for us, but if we can grow the economy, protect the most vulnerable, and make Vermont more affordable, then we'll be a much more prosperous state. And we've already seen the benefits of that over the last couple of years. We just need to continue to forge ahead.
Thank you both very much.
thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.